Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another Talking Hawks preseason live stream. Thank you all for joining us on this Valentine's Day. We are now only 3 days out from our first practice match against Geelong down at GHMBA. I'm sure I speak for all of us when I say how keen I am to get back into it all. Tonight we have Matt, who's making his Talking Hawks debut, as well as Tim, who we'll be discussing the unofficial intraclub that was played last weekend, as well as previewing that upcoming practice match. Tim and I were lucky enough to get down to Waverley last Saturday morning to watch the boys have a hit out, and there was lots to love. Tim, let's go to you first. What were your key takeaways from that Saturday morning?
I think the first key takeaway was it was so great to see the boys out on the park with their families there watching them. So on the Friday, the family members, the parents had their induction at the MCG, which was absolutely wonderful. They then had the match simulation, which doubled as an unofficial intra-club on the Saturday right before the family day on the Sunday. So I think it was great, obviously, to bring all the family there to be able to see the players in action, especially before the season started. When we look at some of the highlights from the day, James Sicily popping up here, there, and everywhere. That was really, really fascinating to watch. I mean, we saw him start down back. We know he's an all-Australian defender. Then we saw him have some time at centre bounces and went, okay, possibly could be like a Tom Stewart role that you see Geelong deploy at times. And then he was on a wing opposed to Jack Gunston, which was like, okay, there's two players I did not expect to see on a wing during an unofficial intra-club match. So watching Sis pop up here, there, and everywhere, I thought was great to see. I think watching Cam McKenzie and Will Day do their bits and pieces through that midfield. We know Will Day is an absolute star, but watching Cam McKenzie, who's, I guess, narrowing that gap between the best midfielders we have with the Newcombs and the Days and the Warples, it's going to be a scintillating thing to watch our midfield this season. And then I guess the last one to talk about would be the back line. How it was all going to come about, how it was all going to work. Would they be too tall? But I think we saw on Saturday Tom Barras just how classy, how skillful he is, how important he's going to be. And then it allowed players like Josh Weddle and Jack Scrimshaw just to be able to use their attacking flair as well. So they were three of the real big takeaways that I took from Saturday.
Yeah, it was a great hit out to watch. I thought everyone showed something at some point, which was good, including some of those Box Hill players that came and helped to fill out on the numbers. But yeah, you're right. Sicily was everywhere. We know he went down back. He had some CBAs as well, even on the wing, and then moved forward late, which was really interesting to see. I have a big love for Will Day. I thought he really stood out as well, looking really fit. This is his first full preseason so far, as long as he stays fit in the next couple of weeks. So, yeah, really keen to see how he goes with that full preseason as well. I know, Matt, you weren't there, but what did you hear about that intra-club match that got you excited from maybe some of Tim's notes or what you've heard around about how that went?
Yeah, just obviously like Sicily playing on the wing and getting into it. Like I was surprised about that, and then when I went down to the family day on the Sunday, Daniel Harford actually asked him about that, and he said, "Oh, I just couldn't get a kick down in defence." But so they tried him on the ball, and he was able to. It just goes to show how versatile our side is, which is fantastic. I think Rebecca, our colleague, wrote a great piece for Talking Hawks about how versatile our side is and how Sam Mitchell can just deploy players in different positions, and I think that's fantastic. So gives us a lot of depth as well.
Yeah, exactly. Depth is that key piece for us. I think we've got a lot of spots that we can bring players in, a lot of competition, which is always going to be good. I think, yeah, for me, that the back line, the forward line, like every area showed something. We know Ginnivan kicked, I think, 4 goals, was it, Tim, in the end? Tell me a little bit how that forward line looked, because we know with Cal Shadir going out, and we heard this week that he will be missing the start of the season. So what did that forward line look like without him?
Yeah, it was a fascinating watch because it was almost like you had the probable back line against the probable forward line. And when you looked at it, you thought, how's it all going to work? And Jack Ginnivan he kicked 4 goals from 4 snaps. And when he came off, his first word was, "I'm back." And you just saw the look on his face. And he had up until he had that little niggle with his quad, he'd had such a fantastic preseason. I mean, you look at his body composition, you look at what he's been eating, he's been putting it on his Instagram, and he just looks like he's in the best possible shape he could be. And then just to see that cheeky smile on his face, having kicked forward in an intra-club against some of his best mates, and then you watch Nick Watson bobbing up like a boy in the ocean. Every time the ball was nearby, Watson was just bobbing up. And there was one time that was quite interesting. He got a free kick against Tom Barras. Tom Barras got him around the throat. Barras was manning the mark, and the Wiz juggled the ball, almost dropped it, trying to get 50. It was fascinating to watch that bit of byplay between teammates. In an intra-club, Watson was still trying to get the most out of the whole part of it, which was great. And then one of the ones that was really interesting, and he was not on the probable side against the other probable, so it wasn't the probable forward line against the probable defence, but it was the other way, and it was Will McCabe, who we know has played. That Will McCabe played his junior football as a forward. He's obviously got those skills. He kicked 2 goals in the first quarter. He could be one that we might possibly see, especially with Cal Shadir, Mitch Lewis not being available for the first bit of the season. He might be one that we see the club maybe experimenting with at Box Hill in that forward line, and potentially that could be the way that he gets a debut game in season 2025.
Yeah, that spot is up for grabs for sure in that forward line. We know Ramsden was in that probable forward line at the start of the game. Me personally, I saw a few little evidence that he could be getting that call up, but maybe not as much as I would have loved to see. Do you think, Tim, that he will be the first one to get that call up, or it's still wait and see? We'll wait and watch these practice matches.
I think it's going to be horses for courses over the duration of this season. I think depending on who we're up against, we might see a Mosquito Fleet forward line with Marbiel Chol as the one true tall, Jack Gunston possibly playing as that hybrid tall. And then there might be other weeks where we see Gunston, Chol, we might see Max Ramsden, possibly even Jasper Scape at some time. And I think when you look at it, both Ramsden and Marbiel Chol had almost days where they got their hands to the ball. They did a few really good things, but just weren't able to, I guess, take all those opportunities that they had. But you look at who they were up against. They weren't up against, an ordinary backline. They were coming up against a premiership player in Tom Barras. They were coming up against Josh Battle, who did a tremendous job when he was playing for St Kilda against Jeremy Cameron. Jack Scrimshaw, who last year was this rejuvenated centre-half back. And you go, well, also it was going to be difficult for them. But I think, from looking at it, if Sam Mitchell was to have a pick and they wanted to play those 2 talls, I think Ramsden is probably the way they're going to go. He went into the ruck, which meant they were still able to keep that 1 tall in the forward line, allowing Marbiel to play that role deeper.
Yeah. I think, as you said, it always goes back to that flexibility we have at the moment. And we know Hardwick is now basically done his full preseason as that half forward role. And we know he can take a mark and bring the ball to ground, which is what we really loved from Kalsh's game, to bring the ball to ground so that, the likes of Ginnivan and Watson and C-Mac and Dylan Moore could all have, crumb from that bringing the ball to ground. So, yeah, I think it's going to be a really interesting watch, that forward line across the practice match against Geelong and the practice match against the Doggies, because I think, it could have a little bit of a shake-up with that extra tall before we get into our first game against Sydney. Maybe one more time, Tim, we'll throw to you about this. Do you have your votes? Do we have a 3-2-1 best on, or could you give us just a few names that we really should be keeping our eye out because they stood out a lot last Saturday?
Yeah, I think if we had to go 3-2-1, the 3 votes would go to Tom Barras. Just his ability, fingernail on the ball, his ability just to defend. As I said before, I think that's something that's going to be a must-watch for Hawthorn supporters, because each and every week we'll go in and we won't be sitting there talking about this undersized backline and will they hold up.
Yeah.
Instead, we'll be about, wow, look at the plethora of talent we have in the backline. So I think Tom Barras gets the 3. Will Dave gets the 2. Just watching his class through that midfield, he just oozes class. Every time he does something, you're just spellbound. And that's something that is just beautiful to watch as a supporter. And when he plays for your team, it's even better. And, there's always comparisons about Will Day compared to Marcus Bontempelli. But I think as we go on, it's going to be Marcus Bontempelli plays the Will Day style rather than the other way around, which will be lovely to our ears. And then if I had to say one vote, and this one, it's probably a bit tricky because there was a couple, but Jack Ginnivan kicking 4,
Yeah.
against a stellar backline. And you look at that and you go, if he's able to produce efforts like that each and every week, now obviously he's not going to kick 4 goals a game, but if he's able to bob up in dangerous positions, being able to impact the play, it only bodes well for our forward line going forward in 2025. And I saw someone say that our forward line's our weakness. I actually don't think it is. I think when you look at that forward line at the moment, it's not really a weakness because there's so many options that can roll through that forward line, and that versatility and flexibility that we've been talking about is something that Sam Mitchell has waxed lyrical about for the last 2 years. I think there's so many players that will pop up in that forward line that if you're an opposition coach and you're the opposition defensive coach, you won't know who to put your time and effort into because you plan for Ramsden and Chol, and then all of a sudden is James Sicily in the forward line, and you go, right, okay, let's plan for him. Then all of a sudden, Jack Scrimshaw's played forward. You might see Scrimmer there, or you see Josh Weddle pop up. There's so many variables that even today I was talking at school to one of the kids that I teach, who's a Hawthorn supporter, and he said, "Who's your 23 for round 1?" And I had a list of 30.
Yeah.
I still can't do it, so I'd hate to be in Sam Mitchell's shoes in the lead up to round 0.
Yeah, for sure. I think also with that point on Ginnivan, we were there. He kicked 4 from 3 quarters. He didn't even play the full match sim, which is pretty unbelievable. We've got a comment here. What about Gunners? Well, I can tell you about Gunners. He looked as fit as he has in the last couple of years. It's quite unbelievable, actually. Whereas, Bruce and Frosty came in and only played for a half. Gunners was out there basically the entire time and kicked a couple as well. And just, he looks really good. I can't wait to see him playing this year. I think maybe for me personally, I thought we'll slowly phase him out this year. We might only see him, 10 or so games, but I think we'll see him a lot more than that at the moment. All right, let's just
on that. Just on that, I was just going to say Blake Hardwick as well. He played forward, and James Sicily's another one where both of those, can be flung forward at any time. Like you said, Tim, it creates a nightmare for opposition defensive coaches. So, our depth is incredible.
Yeah, exactly. Matt, let's throw to you. You were the one who was able to get it down to Family Day. I've seen some pictures. It looked packed. Just give us your quick summary on how the vibes were down at Waverley that day.
Yeah, absolutely. So it was incredible. It was there were thousands of fans down, and it was just a flock of brown and gold, and there was so much optimism as well because I think just everyone's just so pumped and excited about how far we can go this year. And it was just a great feeling. And it was great to see so many champions of the club as well. Not just in the presentation of the Guernseys, so they had the some of the legends and the players, former players present the Guernseys. But even so before the Family Day, there was a sort of a centenary celebration, and so there were so many of the former premiership players around, and it was such a great atmosphere. It was incredible. You saw there were times where Michael Tuck was taking photos with little kids, and the kids didn't know who he was, but they said to ask their parents, and their parents were like, "Oh, he's an absolute legend," and so. It's just incredible. Like you had Michael Tuck, there was Peter Hudson there was Johnny Platten. There were other players like Peter Spider Everett there. So it was just such an incredible feeling. But the highlight for me and the one that stood out was Big Dipper when he got up on stage, and clearly a fan favourite. There was a massive roar and applause when he got up on stage, and he had a chat with Daniel Harford, and he was talking about how he wanted to see Josh Weddle on the wing, and it was such a buzz. It was so great to see, and he was presenting his number 9 to the number 9 Guernsey to CJ, and just the thought of CJ on one wing, Josh Weddle on the other, and then interchanging perhaps with Finn McGuinness and Carl Amon, who've Carl Amon's done a whole heap of work this pre-season into his pace and just the thought of opposition players just can't even keep up with them because they're so fast, and it just gets me salivating just thinking about it. So yeah, it's quite exciting. It was such a great day. It was so many people around, and just the buzz was quite exciting. So it was great.
Yeah, glad to see that not only are we performing on the field, but we're also performing off the field with the fans. And we see it from the love we get here at Talking Hawks. Like, everyone's just so bought in for this year. That massive rise last year is going to be, got us all super keen to see how this year goes. I mean, if you're a betting guy, we're second favourites for the flag, which is pretty unbelievable. If you had have told any of us, I'm sure this time last year, we wouldn't believe you. So yeah, what a journey it's been, and it's great to see all the fans getting around it at the moment. Maybe we'll head now to this practice match against Geelong, which we will be having at GHMBA Monday, February 17th at 2 p.m. local time. If I'm not wrong, I believe that should be streaming on KO, so hopefully everyone's got that and can tune in. I do have bad memories of heading down to the GHMBA in 2023 for another practice match where we got pretty much annihilated, which was not fun to watch. We did see Box Hill come on and get that margin back, but yeah, this one hopefully a little bit more even, we hope, because Geelong will definitely be, as they always are, around there. So it's always a good test. It'll be interesting to see. We do have the Indigenous game on tomorrow, which I'm keen to watch, which will feature Amon and Impey in a, I think he's vice captain or in that leadership role there, which is amazing for him. So congrats to those two guys, but not sure if they will be there on Monday. I wouldn't think so, but yeah, really keen to watch this first hit out. It's been a long time, but yeah, it felt like forever, but really keen to get back into it. Maybe we'll go to Tim first. What are you expecting from this preseason hit out? Are you going to make a tip? Are you going to tell us who's going to stand out? Who do you think?
Yeah, I think the thing that's going to be very fascinating to watch is that more than likely, I've been speaking to a few people at the club, it looks like we'll be sort of rolling out somewhere between 25 to 30 players. So not every player will get a game. Mm-hmm. Originally, it was slated for 5 30-minute quarters, but it was at the coaches were allowed to sit down and work it out together, and that's now been changed. So it's 4 30-minute quarters. We know that Carl Amon and also Germany won't be playing because they're playing on Saturday. So it means that some of those players are around the fringe. And I was saying before that when you look at, I guess, the 30-person squad, that's sort of where the coaches' minds are going to be at the moment. I think it's a wonderful opportunity for someone, like a Jai Sarong who stood out in that intraclub on the weekend. Wonderful opportunity for him. There's players like Josh Ward, Finn McGuinness, Chankloth Jia, who are sort of in and around the periphery of that 22, 23-man squad. And I'm really looking forward to seeing them because I think it's their opportunity to shine. It's a great opportunity for a player like Max Ramsden to put his hand up and say, yep, I'm ready to take that spot. He looked good during the preseason. He hasn't done sort of anything wrong, which is great. But it's a wonderful opportunity coming up against another team, not just your own team, but coming up against opposition this time around. And there was a question before about what's our game style going to be like. And that's going to be the most fascinating part at GHMBA Stadium because on the weekend, the game plan or the game style we saw was quick and slick. That ball movement from half back just looked sublime. But at GHMBA Stadium, where the ground is 30 centimetres, 40 centimetres wide, and it's obviously hyperbole, it's not 30 or 40 centimetres high, but where it's such a narrow ground, it makes that game plan that Sam Mitchell likes to deploy really difficult. So that's going to be a really interesting watch because we probably won't see our game plan at its best at a ground that doesn't quite suit. And if you look at the fixture, we don't play there this year. So
thankfully.
That's the case. So it'll be interesting. And then the following week, and I saw another comment before that someone said we'll probably lose both our pre-season matches, and we take on the Dogs at UTAS the following week. We know that we play UTAS very well, similar dimensions to the MCG. And the day after that, the boys who don't get picked to play for Hawthorn will be playing in the Box Hill practice match, which will be their first one of the season. That's going to take place on Friday the 28th at Whitten Oval. So not sure of the time yet. Time's still a bit to be confirmed. But you will likely see some of those Hawthorn players. We might see a Noel Moraz. We might see a Cody Anderson. We might see a Jamie O'Henry pulling on the Stangs jersey, pulling on the Box Hill jumper and having a go for some match hit out there. So that's something just to keep in mind as well. That we've got this game coming up, but over the next fortnight, it's a real good test, real good hit out for everyone who's on our list.
Yeah, exactly. And we'll hopefully be getting to all of you guys next week with a review of this Geelong game. So we'll make sure to come to you and we'll answer all your questions and tell you our thoughts, and we can hear your thoughts. But before, we'll go to you now, Matt. What do you think? What are you looking for in this hit out? Because there's a lot of things I'm looking for, but I would love to hear you first. Tell me, Matt.
Yeah, thanks. Probably Sam Mitchell try and players out in different positions and trying that versatility. Just building on that because then that's something that we can employ at any time in the year. If someone goes down with an injury or we're down by a few goals and we need to try something different, he's got that under his belt. So I'm looking forward to perhaps seeing a bit more of that. And seeing what he's got up his sleeve in regard to that. There's so many exciting players to watch. Cody Anderson, like Tim said, or Will Day. Looking forward to him hopefully having a season free of injuries. CJ. I'm hoping Finn McGuinness can have a real good run at it this year as well. Hopefully have a breakout season. Just really excited about seeing the new guys as well in action, Tom Barras and Josh Battle, and seeing how they go. There's obviously been big raps about them, but seeing them against opposition players and seeing how they stack up, looking forward to seeing it all. And then obviously the experience of Luke Bruce and Jack Gunston coming to the fore as well will be crucial.
Yeah, I definitely got your point about that back line. That's been a mystery still to me this pre-season about who's going to be getting down there. We know Frost has kind of had that interrupted pre-season, so whether he can put his hand up to get a game early. But as we've said, that back line is stacked, and Battle and Barras are really showing up and showing us why we fought so hard to get them to the club. So I think they're interesting ones to look. It's always good to see how that works. We know at the start of last year, we brought in quite a few new players. So it took a while for us to mesh together, and, that ended with the 0-5 start. But this year, hopefully we can mesh a little bit quicker, especially forward of the ball, which those guys have been working together now all pre-season. The back line, that could take a while or a couple of games to get into the swing of it all. But I think, it's going to be just a good one to see where we are at the moment. Geelong are one of the top competitors. Now we know they might not, run out everyone. I doubt Dangerfield plays a full game. Cameron, Jazza won't play a full game either. But, it'll be good to get a measure to where we are, because as one of the teams that we should be making finals, should be, vying for that top 4 position, we should be trying to get this win, even though, pre-season wins don't mean much, but it's always good to get one, get a bit of confidence in there, because I don't know how many pre-season games we've won in the last couple of years. I would say probably 0. So it would be good to, get our hopes up, ensure that we got our confidence in as fans to, go into this season. But we know that the Sydney game's not too far away as well. Like, it's just really around the corner, start of March. So super keen for that. Let's address a few comments now. We've had some questions about injuries. So we've got C-Mac, who did roll his ankle, but I think he's looking good to go now. Last I heard, he is going to play in that Geelong game. Tim, who else? Can you give us an update on Mitch Lewis, James Blank and Cal Shadir? We did get an update from the club this week, but let's just go over that again.
Yeah, so in terms of Croc, he will play at this stage half a game. On Monday, he did roll his ankle when they were at the camp in Torquay. Thankfully, it wasn't as serious as it could have been, which was wonderful. He was there on Saturday for the match simulation, wandering around. So he'll definitely get some game time on Monday, which is great. Mitch Lewis. So Mitch had a bit of an extended break over in America, and I think it was great because he has done so well. He's been so diligent in terms of his rehab. So it's given him an opportunity just to refresh, because being in that rehab group and trying to get back, being able to play is very, very taxing for a player mentally. So it was great for him to be able to take that extra bit of time over there. I saw him at the Super Bowl, which was wonderful. James Blank is definitely on the recovery path. It looks like both he and Mitch Lewis will be available to play some VFL football. At this stage, it will be around late April. So that's sort of round 8-ish, somewhere around there. They'll be able to play some VFL football. And obviously having this time at VFL football is going to be very important, just to get the loads back into the bodies, to get that match fitness as well. And then we all know that in terms of Kalsha, he won't be available until after gather round. And when you look at it, the club is going to be very, very cautious with him. He's a 19-year-old. He's got so much football ahead of him. And I've seen comments from people saying, let's get him back as quick as possible. But the thing is, you don't want to do that. You want to look after him. You want to make sure that he's completely fine, because a back injury, which he's had, is something that if it's not treated well at a younger age, will just continue to play up as he progresses through his AFL career. So I think they're going to be very, very diligent in terms of what they do with him, and that medical team that we know at Hawthorn do a tremendous job. So all of those players are definitely on the recovery path. Sam Butler, I just saw in the comments as well. Where's Butler at? So he was getting some time during some match simulation. He's currently being pulled back from his training load just to manage him. Once again, he's coming back from a horrific injury, and he was ahead of schedule. He was looking fantastic, but the club is just doing the right thing by him, because the last thing they want is for him to get re-injured. So, but he's on the recovery path. And when you look at our list, there's not too many injured. And you compare it to this time last year, when we had, James Blank go down, we had DJB with turf toe, Will McCabe had done his back. We had so many players, unfortunately, who were injured this time last year, that you look at it now, and instead of last year thinking, how are we going to fill a squad? It's now, who do we leave out?
Yeah, exactly. We just, everyone at home, knock on wood, that we get through these next couple of weeks unscathed, because we know the start of the year is where, majority of those injuries come from. A lot of other clubs have been struggling with it. So right now we're looking pretty peachy to go, but, we don't know what's going to happen. But I think just as we wrap it up slowly here, as we said, tonight's just a little quick refresher, see what's happening the last couple of weeks down at Waverley Park, and we'll make sure to hop on next week to have a good long chat about the Geelong game. But maybe just to finish off here, I know we normally only do this for actual games, but let me get a tip and maybe one stat line for a player, maybe how many goals a player is going to kick, something like that. Matt, let's go to you first. Can we get a tip and a margin? And then maybe one player who you think might be best on ground.
Yeah, okay. I'm going to go the Hawks by 14 points. And Will Day to be best on ground.
Yeah, nice
Will
one.
Day.
Nice. Timmy, your go now.
Yeah, I'm going to say it's going to be a draw, because both sides will just use it. Both sides will just use it as a way to get some more miles into the legs and just to test out the game plan against an opposition. And if I was to have a tip, I won't be best on ground, but I'm going to tip Max Ranson to kick 2.
Ooh, I like that stat line. I think I'll go Hawks as well. I mean, I have to kind of, don't I really? I'm not going to say Geelong this early in the year, but I'll say maybe a nice 24 points, nothing too crazy, but a nice solid win. And Matt, you stole my Will Day one, but I think hopefully, I've put my own self on the spot here. I'm going to say Guinea lights it up with another bag of 4. I'm hoping, fingers crossed. So I think anything else anyone wants to throw in tonight? I know we haven't got to every single comment, but I'm sure, as I said, we'll hop on next week and try to get to as many as possible. But do you want to leave us, Matt, with one last thing before we go? Just something about the club for the rest of the year, what you're keen for, because, we haven't had you on before, so I'd love to hear your thoughts on what Hawthorn are looking like for the rest of 2025.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much. And I guess one thing I forgot to mention earlier when I was talking about the family day was President Andy Gowers got up and talked about the centenary and how the Hawks are celebrating our centenary this year.
Yes.
So round 8 against Richmond at the MCG, we'll be celebrating our centenary match. And the club will also be doing a tour around the country where we're taking the 13 premierships all around the country. So it'll be a chance for fans in different states and territories to get up close and personal with the premierships. So that's exciting. In terms of the club this year, I'm just hoping for a great bill of health to continue. So far we've got minimal injuries, and just really hoping that continues. But I mean, it's probably inevitable that we probably will get some injuries, but I think that's the great thing about our club at the moment is we've got such great depth.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that's going to be something that's really important throughout the course of the year. I mean, it's a long season, and hopefully if we go deep into September, it's just really exciting. So really looking forward to it. Looking forward to different tactics, different players playing in different positions, and who can take the next step in their progression this year. So out of our youngsters, and looking forward to hopefully Mitch Lewis and Cal Shadir, recovering and getting back into the side as well. Will McCabe looking to see if he's going to be like his old man as well. So looking forward to it. It'll be great.
Yeah, all right. Before we head off, Tim, you've got one more shout out to give, talking about player sponsors. Let us know what's happening.
Yeah, so this one's actually, because Matt was just talking about being the centenary year and how they spoke about it. And I know that there was a stall on Sunday that was there at Waverley Park. And it was for the Patient Wolf Distilling Company, who've created it's called the Hawthorn Football Club Centenary Gin. And I think, as a Hawthorn fan or Hawthorn supporter, if you don't drink, it doesn't matter. It's a wonderful gift that you can keep there. It's a nice little memento. The club's brought out, the Guernseys for this year with the 100 years, which is wonderful. It's another little memento, and the club has banded together. They've joined together with the Patient Wolf Distilling Co. to create this, once in a lifetime piece. So I was very fortunate enough to get one. So I've got it up on the shelf, and I just think, it's a wonderful way to be able to celebrate the centenary as well, because they won't produce something else like this later on, it's a keepsake, and one day I'll be able to pass it on to my daughters, hopefully, or who knows, and it's a nice little gift. So if you're interested in that, that's the Patient Wolf Distilling Co. who created this Hawthorn Centenary Gin. So it's something that they sponsored. They spoke about it at the family day. They had their little stall set up, and Matt, who's there, is a die-hard Hawthorn fanatic who's putting his money into the club, and it's a wonderful way for the club to be able to look after a Hawthorn person.
Yeah, absolutely. So many exciting things happening around the club at the moment, not just, as I said, not just on the field, but off the field as well. Well, I think that probably wraps us up for tonight, guys. Thank you for tuning in. We've had a great time chatting about what's been happening. I know we all love this little outlet to come and have a chat about the Hawks, because it's getting close now, and we really, can't wait to get this all started. I think make sure to follow us on all your social medias, X/Twitter, Instagram. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube. All our links are in the description below. If you joined late, make sure to go back to the start. If we missed your question, we might have answered it at the beginning of this stream where we touched on that intra-club match. So once again, as per usual, thank you for joining us talking Hawks, and go the Mighty Hawks.